Good afternoon and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of Southern California and USC. I'm Erica Driscoll.
And I'm Zain Khan. We're coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center. It's Thursday, March 28th, 2024.
On today's show, fast food employees' wages jump, controversy over the bill that built Dodgers Stadium, and a Mexican-American twist on anime.
All that and more on From Where We Are after these news headlines.
From Annenberg Media, I'm Sam Bittman. Rescue crews have called off the search for additional survivors of the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse and are refocusing efforts towards clearing the debris left in the wake of Tuesday's destruction. Authorities pulled the bodies of 2 construction workers out of the water near the bridge's former middle section Wednesday, and 2 survivors resurfaced in the incident's initial aftermath. Damian Tucker's job with the Port of Baltimore is affected by the collapse, and he spoke on the common conditions of his career.
Many of us longshoremen live paycheck to paycheck like many other people in this economy. We have to work 60 and 70, 80 hours a week to make a decent living.
The move to call off the search for survivors leaves at least 4 people unaccounted for. Former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison today for his role in the collapse of the cryptocurrency exchange company. Fried used the money from his billion-dollar crypto fraud scheme to support a lavish lifestyle before a court found him guilty of 7 charges, including fraud and conspiracy in November, the same time that FTX filed for bankruptcy. Fried is believed to have committed one of the biggest financial crimes in U.S. history. The ex-king of crypto said that he made, quote, selfish decisions and, quote, threw it all away when speaking about his time with FTX, and that it, quote, haunts him every day. A streak of record-breaking popularity continues for the Women of March Madness as Caitlin Clark remains the figurehead for a season that's drawn over 5 million viewers. Clark is a point guard for the University of Iowa and the all-time leading scorer in NCAA's Division I, drawing professional interest from rapper Ice Cube. The former NWA artist reportedly offered Clark $5 million to play in his Big 3 league, but has yet to hear a formal response. Clark spoke on her success during a recent press conference.
I don't know if you can really script it any better, and I thought we played really well tonight, and that our defense could have been a little better, but just to do it in this fashion, I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful to be surrounded by so many people that have kind of been my foundation and everything that I've done since I was a young little girl, and I started crying when watching that video just because I'm just filled with so much gratitude and love, and the way that these fans support women's basketball is so special, and yeah, I mean, you all knew I was going to shoot a logo through the record. Come on.
USC's dramatic arts students finally have a forever home. The university unveiled the new building that will house the School of Dramatic Arts in a ribbon-cutting ceremony today. The building, which was formerly the home of the USC United University Church, is one of the oldest and most historical buildings on campus. It has since been reworked for the School of Dramatic Arts and will officially be available for students and faculty in the school to use starting April 13th. The new building renovations come with cutting-edge performance spaces and creative studios and marks a major step forward for the dramatic arts at USC. Those are some of the top stories in the news today.
Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper, Flame Grill taste with perfect toppers.
California fast food restaurants will be raising their minimum wage on April 1st. So ARN spoke with employees at local fast food locations to hear their thoughts on what it could mean for them. Jennifer Nearer has the story.
Fast food restaurants and customers are preparing for a minimum wage jump to take effect next week, which some say is a long time coming. Starting April 1st, fast food restaurants in California will be required to pay employees at least $20 an hour, up from $17.06. But as the day approaches, reactions are mixed. Some are worried the wage increase will come with higher food prices, but others are just happy to be paid more. Maria Lorenzo, an assistant general manager at Domino's, says that despite the wage increase, her store will not raise prices.
I know for a fact that we're not going to increase prices. We were at a meeting where they said that Domino's is going to keep the same prices. We're just going to have to keep labor under control.
Lorenzo is excited for the increase because she works 2 jobs to support herself and her family. Olivia Richardson, a manager at the Momoda Ramen House, lamented the fact that because the restaurant is a privately owned business, their wages will not increase. Richardson said if their food prices have to be raised, she hopes their salary will increase as well.
Well, my goal is if we raise prices, then I'm definitely asking my boss for a raise for all of us because I only think it's fair.
Richardson did mention, however, that the restaurant is currently trying other methods to bring in more profit without raising prices.
I do believe that my boss has been looking into not only, possibly raising prices, but looking to other items to bring into the restaurant. Like as you see up on our board, we put some new sushis up there, and I think she's just looking to do something that's a little more fresher. Still have our old popular items and have our old stuff, but just trying to bring something new in also.
Trinidad Mendez, an assistant manager at Momoda Ramen House, attributed the reason for wage hikes to the cost of living in Los Angeles.
Increasing minimum wages is just a response to just higher cost of living, and that is something that has become abundantly clear to be a problem here in the city of Los Angeles with increasing rent prices and just overall increasing rates of homelessness.
Tia Kuntz, a legal and policy researcher at UCLA, explained that fears of wage and price increases driving customers away are unfounded.
We have not seen that there's been any depreciation in customer base or in buying power because fast food workers are fast food customers. So when you pay your fast food workers more, they can buy more food, right? Low-wage workers tend to spend money in the immediate local economy. A low-wage worker is spending money on housing, utilities, and groceries. It doesn't get much more local than that.
Kuntz also said that she has personally witnessed market trends over the past couple of wage increases and has always seen that jobs will stay consistent and customers will keep coming back.
Now seen in my 10, 15 years in the movement, seen a number of minimum wage increases. And every single time the argument is, this is going to drive up prices, this is going to result in layoffs, this is going to kill the economy. And what we've seen is that as the minimum wage has gone up in LA County faster even than the state, so now it's $17.74 or whatever it is an hour here, fast food jobs have increased. So I think the data suggest that we can only expect this is going to be a net benefit.
California will have another chance to prove that customers can remain loyal to the fast food market starting Monday. For Annenberg Media, I'm Jennifer Neer.
Today is opening day of the baseball season. The Dodgers beat the St. Louis Cardinals 7-1. A lot of fans think this year's very expensive Dodgers team can go all the way to the World Series. But amidst the joy, there's an underside. In building the Dodgers baseball stadium in Chavez Ravine, a rupture in many people's lives that some 70 years later is still being addressed. Katie Simmons reports.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Let's start with the history of how Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles became home to Dodger Stadium. In the late 1940s, a few hundred mostly Mexican and some Chinese and Italian American families called Chavez Ravine home. They'd been there since at least the 20s and had, maybe not the wealthiest, but a very strong community. In 1949, during post-World War II urban renewal and the need for more housing in LA, the city told these families that their houses would be torn down. They were promised new and better housing, which they never did get. But LA evicted them via eminent domain. However, after a ballot measure on affordable housing didn't pass, the project was abandoned. Journalist Eric Nussbaum wrote, "Stealing Home, Los Angeles, the Dodgers, and the Lives Caught in Between."
People who lived in those communities believe that they should have been given more resources, more infrastructure, more help from the city. Instead, they were being told by the city that they weren't good enough, that their homes were slums, that they needed to make way for something better and brighter.
7 decades later, some measure of justice might be coming to the families or their descendants who were displaced. Last week, LA Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo introduced a bill to provide reparations, accountability, and a memorial to those families. It's called the Chavez Ravine Accountability Act. It reads, in part, "For generations, Chavez Ravine stood as a beacon of hope and resilience, embodying the dreams and aspirations of families who built their lives within its embrace. With this legislation, we are addressing the past, giving a voice to this injustice, acknowledging the pain of those displaced, offering reparative measures, and ensuring that we honor and remember the legacy of the Chavez Ravine community. It's kind of the first inning, if you will, for this act. No one knows if it will pass or how much money people might receive as compensation. The bill would require a database on former residents to be completed in the next 3 years. As written, it does not require the Dodgers to pay compensation, and it does not involve Dodger Stadium. It was the city that evicted families years ago. Gerald Poder wrote City of Dreams, Dodger Stadium and the Birth of Modern Los Angeles.
The Dodgers really didn't have all that much to do with it. They signed a contract with the city for that land. They assumed at the time that it was empty land, or free title, if you could put it that way. And it turned out not to be the case. So what the Dodgers did basically is step back and say, well, the city of Los Angeles really has to resolve this. We're not going to resolve this.
While baseball games have a winner and a loser, life is not always that clear-cut. The history of the Chavez Ravine reflects the complicated landscape of urban development. So the next time you root for the Dodgers, also think about the uprooted. For Annenberg Media, I'm Katie Simons.
Los Shinigamis del Norte have redefined the norms of Latin American music by combining their talents with the beloved Japanese art form, anime. Here's a taste of the combo with their most popular song, El Poder Nuestro Es, Our Power Is.
Acercándose, el peligro viene ya. Y para llorar, no es el tiempo ahora.
Fusion has also inspired USC students to make mashup culture. Catherine Kizzy has the story.
Trying to come up with a group project idea for a Visions of Diversity class, cinematic arts students looked all around, and they came up with an idea to work with people they cross paths with every day and who they'd like to know better, says cinema studies freshman Lucia Perfetti.
Especially the dining hall workers that are really nice to us, talk to us every day, and so we're gonna do a project where we can talk to them and learn more about their stories. So I think that's just something about SCA where you can learn about people's stories that aren't necessarily talked about as much.
Another USC cinematic arts student shares how these different voices bring new perspectives to the table and how this makes their projects richer, says fourth-year Master of Fine Arts student in Film and TV Production, Faying Ambo.
It's pretty exciting because you have a very diverse group of filmmakers, and getting feedback from what it means, what you're trying to make means in other people's culture. You just tend to get newer perspective than you wouldn't have if you're in silos. So I think that's what's exciting about the program is just different voices from all parts of the world.
Not only are ethnic differences an important part in the creative arts process, but comparing and blending geographical differences can also lead to new discoveries. Allender Pulliam graduated from USC Film School and is now producing films.
I'm working on combining suburbia and urban culture together, making a classic of something that would be considered opposite of each other, and bringing them together. And one of the purposes of the production was to show how we are all kind of the same in many ways, but showing our different cultures and how we can combine them and become, actually assets to each other.
We're all learning from each other and growing together as a community at USC, in the world of arts, and in America. And what we take away from that will shape our future. For Annenberg Media, I'm Caitlin Kizzy.
With many students in the midst of observing the month of Ramadan, today we are bringing in a Muslim entrepreneur. USC student Talha Rafiq is here to talk more about his podcast, The College Muslim, which sounds like this.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Badruddin Muhammad.
My name is Talha Rafiq.
And welcome to episode 10 of The College Muslim. So together, me and
Talha, that's excellent. Thank you so much for coming to the studio and joining us here. So right off the bat, my first question is, your podcast focuses specifically on a particular demographic, which is college and high school Muslim students. Mm-hmm. What has your experience been in college being a Muslim?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you for having me on. But apart from that, yeah, definitely not the most straightforward experience that I thought I would have in college, which is where the podcast even came from. That's the reason we started the entire thing. And you can hear my podcast co-host on the air along with me. And we kind of realized okay, we don't really know how to navigate college as Muslim students because there's a lot of things that we, prescribe to do that most college students are doing that we can't do. In order to navigate that, we were like, all right, let's just start talking about it, right? So even with our first podcast episode, which was all about like the party culture and like even things like drinking, we had a discussion around that, concept, and it just kind of went from there, and we ended up, talking about it, and people rallied around it, and now it is what it is. So.
Nice. Is the podcast in part a reaction to the challenges, or how does it help you get by?
Yeah, so it's twofold. So the first main goal was for ourselves to first have a conversation that is valid and I guess being had, because a lot of the times these kind of conversations are taboo within the Muslim world. Like we don't really talk about them. We're just told, hey, don't partake in this, don't do this. And it's a very it's a Western experience almost for immigrant parents because they don't really know how to navigate this world. And a lot of us do have immigrant parents. We're first generations. So we don't even know how to contextualize our situation with the kind of Islamic rulings that we know we have to follow. So for us, in the beginning, it was definitely like, how are we going to get around this, right? So we were just talking for the sake of talking. We were already having these conversations off camera. And then one day we were like, maybe there's a group of people who might want to listen. And that's where the second part comes into it. Now it's more of almost a reflection / reaction to what's going on, because a lot of those things that we were talking about, we've kind of found our identity and self within it. But now we're realizing, okay, there are other people and other individuals out there who are continually benefiting off of this. So even if we're not coming to conclusions for ourselves anymore, it is still a important conversation to be had and bring on guests who can also reflect on their experiences, because there's so many experiences that we can't even encapsulate within our own, right? So now it's a mixture of a reaction to what's kind of going on for different people, as well as what are our personal takes on how we improve ourselves as well.
And nothing in college is without its challenges. And I wonder, how is it being received, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Yeah, it's been received pretty well. I have not faced any criticism, at least from what I know, directly to my face, and from what we know about our reviews and ratings on the podcast. We've done 80,000 plus views at this point, 5-star ratings across all our social media platforms. So when it comes to the standard, qualitative description of how good is this podcast, I think it's pretty well received. And I do get a lot of messages of college students and high school students who say, they tell me face to face, oh, thank you for talking about the topic. I've never heard someone talk about it in that way, right? Because it's a very reflective topic, and we always talk about it from a perspective of ourselves. So it's not you should be doing this. It's more we've figured we figured this out by ourselves in this manner. We hope that it helps you. And if not in the same exact way, then at least it gets you thinking about how can I approach these kind of difficulties and challenges. So I think it's received pretty well. I haven't gotten much complaints from that.
So wait, how many podcasts did you say that you've done? How many episodes?
Episodes, not that many, maybe 35.
Okay,
yeah.
That's still a lot. Which one do you think was your favorite one thus far, and why?
The first one, which was all about, the exact title was how to deal with drinking and partying at college. And being at USC, that's obviously, a topic that was very hot to talk about. But yeah, by far, it was the one that was the most favorite, and it's the one that's been most well received. And that's kind of that's what kicked off the entire thing. So that was just the first conversation, and it's hard to describe, but it was the most profound one because it mattered so much to me, because that was what I was struggling with, right? So now that I've kind of figured myself out in that regard, that's always been a reminder to me as why are we talking about these things in the very first place?
And finally, it is the month of Ramadan, which is one of the important times for Muslims. So do you have an episode for this month, a specific for Ramadan?
Not right now. We particularly don't. Again, we focus on personal reflection and our personal take on how to navigate certain things. There's been a couple of hitches with the podcast. Nothing goes ever straight when you're in college, right? So there's always things that come up. We started a off-brand clothing brand that we're focused on currently. So there's other projects that we're working on. So we're on a little bit of a pause and hiatus. But last year we did have a Ramadan episode that kind of talked about how to navigate not being able to eat, maybe answer some of the questions that people commonly ask, you can't even have water. How do you do that, right? So yeah, we do have an episode out there that relates to that, but not recently, no.
Talha Rafiq is the founder and co-host of the podcast, The College Muslim. You can hear it on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us, Talha. It was so nice to hear from you.
Of course, thank you for
having me
on.
And that's all we have time for on today's From Where We Are. Daishan Satcher, Anthony Klingerman, and Nicole Bednar produced today's show. We had help from Janet Fu, Paulina Edelman, Shadi Angadi, Jasmine Kawak, and Sophie Nan.
Sam Bittman runs our soundboard, Aaron Lee manages our live stream, and Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
Catch us live on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Subscribe to From Where We Are wherever you're listening right now. And follow us on Instagram at Annenberg Radio. I'm Zain Khan.
And I'm Erica Driscoll. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for From Where We Are.
So, Erica, what fast foods do you like?
Oh, let's play a game of rapid fire. Ready? In and out.
McDonald's.
Oh, that was mine, Zane. Taco Bell.
Cane's.
I don't know. You're making me hungry. Let's go get some fast food.
Well, thank you for joining us and go get some fast food. Or